In April 1912, had seen the world saw the greatest ship they had watched ever built, empires rise and fall, they planets burn, and fleets vanish into black holes. But hidden behind its shining lights were secrets too dark for centuries. The humans had stayed when quiet. Titanic sailed into the edge of the spiral arm, carried more never showing much interest in galactic truth politics. The world was never meant to know. To most alien races, Earth was small, unimportant, and weak. At least, that was what they believed. Then, something happened that made the Council uneasy. It began with silence. A scout ship belonging to the Creel Empire was sent to observe Earth's defenses. The ship entered the Sol system, broadcasting its position as usual. Everything seemed normal at first. The scout scanned the blue planet, recorded data about its cities, oceans, and small orbital satellites. Then, without warning, the transmissions stopped. There was no distress signal, no cry for help. The ship was simply gone. At first, the Creel thought it was an accident, maybe an engine failure or a small asteroid collision. But when they sent another ship, the same thing happened. Silence. The Council called an emergency meeting. Great halls filled with alien voices. Representatives of dozens of empires argued about what had happened. Some said humans had discovered a way to jam signals. Others laughed at the idea. Humans? One delegate sneered. They barely control their own star system. They are not capable of such tricks. Yet, no one could deny the truth. 2 ships had entered human space. None had returned. Suspicion grew. Whispers spread across the galaxy. Was Earth hiding something? For centuries, humans had not shown advanced fleets or powerful weapons. They traded only small goods, minor technology, nothing that threatened the great empires. But the mystery of the missing scouts could not be ignored. The Council decided to act. They would send a fleet, not just 1 or 2 ships, but a formation strong enough to handle any danger. 30 warships from different species were gathered together. They would approach Earth, demand answers, and if needed, crush whatever defenses the humans had. It was supposed to be simple. But before the fleet could even leave their spaceports, strange reports began to arrive. Merchant ships passing near the Sol system claimed they felt something unusual. Sensors malfunctioned, time seemed to slow, and energy readings went wild. Some ships reported hearing voices in their systems, whispers in strange languages that no translator could understand. The rumors grew darker. Pilots swore they saw ghostly shadows moving among the stars, shapes too large to be real, yet too fast to track. The Council ignored these stories. To them, it was nonsense, the usual fear that comes before war. But deep inside, even the most powerful leaders felt a shiver. Something was wrong. When the fleet finally departed, the galaxy watched. Billions of beings tuned into transmissions, eager to see humans brought low, eager to see the mystery solved. Cameras on the lead ship showed the stars stretch and warp as the fleet jumped toward Earth. The journey was smooth, calm, almost too calm. But when they arrived at the edge of the Sol system, something strange happened. The fleet's sensors went dark for exactly 3 seconds. No readings, no signals, nothing. Then everything returned. At first, the commanders thought it was a glitch. But when they checked their formation, 1 ship was missing. A heavy cruiser, large and powerful, had been erased from space. No explosion. No wreckage. Just empty darkness where it had once been. The remaining ships sent desperate scans, searching for debris, radiation, anything at all. There was nothing. It was as if the cruiser had never existed. Panic spread through the ranks. The Council representatives demanded answers. The fleet commander ordered full shields and weapons online. But deep inside, fear had already taken root. Back on the Council's homeworld, silence filled the chamber as the transmission played. 30 ships had arrived. Only 29 remained. And no one knew why. The delegate of the Creel, whose empire had lost the cruiser, trembled with rage. "This is no accident," he shouted. "The humans have hidden weapons. Weapons beyond our knowledge." Others argued it could not be true. How could a primitive species erase a warship without a trace? Yet the evidence was clear. Something was happening around Earth. Something that defied all logic. That night, across the galaxy, fear began to grow. Civilizations whispered of ancient powers, of forbidden science, of weapons that bent reality itself. For the first time, the mighty empires began to wonder if humanity was not weak at all. Perhaps they were only pretending. And so the Council made a choice. They would no longer treat Earth as a minor world. They would watch, listen, and prepare. But deep inside, every leader felt the same question burning in their mind. If humans truly had such power, why had they stayed silent for so long? The answer, they feared, would change the galaxy forever. The fleet that entered the Sol system was uneasy. 29 ships now stood in formation, their weapons armed, their shields raised, but fear ran through every crew. The memory of the vanished cruiser haunted them. It was not destroyed in battle, it was not damaged, it was simply gone, as if erased from reality. No one had ever seen anything like it. The commander tried to keep control. His voice was steady as he ordered the fleet forward, deeper into the human system. Earth grew larger on the screens, a blue and green world shining with oceans and clouds. To the eyes of the aliens, it looked peaceful, harmless, fragile. But no one dared to say those words aloud anymore. The closer they came, the stranger things became. Sensors gave false readings. One moment the planet seemed to have no defense systems at all. The next moment thousands of energy signatures appeared and then vanished again. Long-range scans reported empty space, but a second later they showed massive objects drifting like shadows. The fleet's scientists argued over the data, but nothing made sense. Still, the commander pushed forward. He ordered a display of strength, hoping to draw the humans out. A barrage of warning shots was fired toward the edge of Earth's atmosphere. Bright beams of plasma burned through the sky, exploding harmlessly in the upper layers, a message of intimidation. The aliens expected panic, cries of surrender, or at least some form of communication. Instead, there was nothing. The planet remained silent. The cities below continued their lights, the oceans kept their waves, and no message came back. It was as if Earth was ignoring them completely. The silence made the fleet restless. Soldiers checked their weapons again and again, engineers recalibrated shields, captains whispered to each other on private channels. Fear turned into frustration. Perhaps the humans are cowards, one commander said. They hide behind tricks, but they have no real power. His words spread through the fleet, giving them false courage. Finally, the Council representatives agreed to test Earth directly. A single warship was ordered to descend closer to the planet, to scan its defenses at low orbit. The ship moved forward, engines glowing bright as it entered position. For a moment, everything was calm. Then the ship's lights flickered. Alarms rang out across the fleet. The ship's power levels dropped to 0. Shields collapsed, weapons went offline, engines shut down. It was drifting helplessly above Earth, completely disabled. Desperate calls for help echoed through the comms, but before the fleet could respond, the ship vanished. Not exploded, not destroyed, but gone, like the first cruiser. One moment it was there, the next it was nothing. A deep silence filled the fleet. This was no accident. This was deliberate. Something or someone had taken that ship. The commander's voice shook as he ordered the fleet to prepare for battle. Weapons charged, shields at maximum, every sensor focused on Earth. But again, nothing happened. No enemy ships appeared, no counterattack came. Only silence. The tension was unbearable. The fleet fired again, this time directly at the planet. Dozens of plasma bolts rained down, enough to scorch entire cities. But just before impact, every bolt froze in place. The beams hung in the sky like glowing statues, unmoving, trapped in midair. The fleet's crews gasped in terror. Energy readings spiked off the charts, yet the weapons they had fired no longer belonged to them. Slowly, as if guided by invisible hands, the plasma bolts turned. They faced upward, aimed at the fleet itself. The commander screamed orders to retreat, but it was too late. In a flash, the plasma fire struck back. The fleet shook as explosions tore through several ships. 2 destroyers were ripped apart, another crippled, all by their own weapons. The survivors stared in horror. Humanity had not even fired a shot. The humans had simply taken control of the enemy's attack and turned it around. Panic spread. Soldiers shouted in fear, captains begged for answers, and the council representatives realized the truth. Earth was not weak. Earth was not helpless. Earth was something else entirely, something the galaxy had never seen before. But the worst part was not the power itself. It was the silence. The humans still had not spoken, had not sent a single threat, had not demanded anything. They had only defended themselves, without words, without mercy, without explanation. And that silence was more terrifying than any weapon. Across the galaxy, beings watching the broadcast trembled. Billions had expected to see humans crushed. Instead, they saw mighty fleets humbled by unseen forces. The Council could no longer deny it. Humanity had power far beyond their understanding, and they were only beginning to show it. The question was no longer if humans were dangerous. The question was how far they would go if pushed. And as the fleet struggled to regroup in the dark silence of space, one thought echoed in every mind: this was only the beginning. The fleet was broken, but it was not yet destroyed. 26 ships remained, some damaged, some shaking with fear, but still alive. They pulled back to a safe distance beyond the moon, their commanders desperate to understand what had just happened. The loss of 3 warships without a single human shot fired was beyond logic. Even the oldest species, with thousands of years of war experience, had never seen power like this. The council representatives shouted over each other, accusing and blaming, but in truth no one had answers. Some wanted to retreat at once and warn the galaxy. Others demanded a full assault before the humans could strike again. The commander struggled to keep order, his face pale and his voice strained. "We must see their true defenses," he said. "We must know what we face." Reluctantly, the fleet turned its sensors back toward Earth. At first the planet looked normal. Its surface showed green forests, deep oceans, mountains, and bright cities glowing with light. Around it drifted only a few small satellites, primitive machines that seemed useless in war. There were no fleets, no massive orbital stations, no planetary shields that could explain the destruction of their ships. The aliens stared in confusion. It did not make sense. But then something changed. Slowly, almost too faint to notice, new signals began to appear. First 1, then 2, then hundreds. Strange shadows flickered at the edges of the sensors, as if the stars themselves were shifting. The fleet's computers struggled to process the data. Every scan returned different results. One moment it showed empty space, the next it revealed shapes, massive shapes, moving silently around the planet. And then the shadows began to clear. Cloaks, disguises, whatever they were using, started to fail. One by one, enormous ships faded into view. The aliens gasped as the hidden armada revealed itself. These were not small defense ships or fragile patrol craft. They were giants. Some were larger than any council dreadnought, their hulls lined with black metal that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. Others were strange in design, built in angles and curves no alien engineer would have ever imagined. Their engines glowed with energy that no sensor could explain, pulsing with a rhythm like a heartbeat. There were dozens of them, maybe more, surrounding Earth in a silent formation. The fleet fell silent as terror gripped every crew. This was the answer to their mystery. Earth had never been weak. Earth had never been defenseless. Humanity had hidden an entire armada right under the galaxy's nose, invisible until now. The council representatives stared at the screens in disbelief. For centuries, humans had played the role of a minor species, showing little technology, no great fleets, nothing that threatened the balance of power. And yet here they were, revealing warships that surpassed anything the council had ever built. How had they hidden them? How had they kept such a secret while under constant observation? No one could answer. The commander of the fleet tried to speak, but his words failed. For the first time in his career, he felt true fear. One of the human ships moved, breaking formation. Slowly it turned toward the alien fleet. The size of it dwarfed their cruisers. Its surface rippled with shifting plates, as if the ship was alive. Strange blue energy lines ran across its hull, glowing brighter with every second. The alien crews braced for attack, shields at full strength, weapons ready. But the human ship did not fire. Instead, it simply hovered there, watching. Its silence was worse than any threat. Then, a second ship moved, and then a third. The armada shifted into a new formation, encircling Earth in a wall of steel and shadow. It was a message. Earth was not asking for peace, but it was not rushing into war either. It was simply showing its strength, daring anyone to test it again. The galaxy was watching. Billions of beings who had tuned in to witness humanity's defeat now trembled as they realized the truth. Earth had been preparing all along. They had hidden their weapons, their fleets, their true power, until the day the galaxy forced them to reveal it. The council representatives whispered in fear. If this is what they reveal now, one muttered, what else are they hiding? Another shook his head, his voice filled with dread. This is only their warning. They could have destroyed us already, but they choose not to. Why? No one had the answer, but deep inside, they all felt the same terrible truth. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not helpless. Humanity was patient. They had waited, watched, and built their strength in silence. And now that silence was broken, the stars themselves seemed to tremble. The alien fleet held its ground, but every captain knew the truth. They could not win this fight. Not here, not against such power. Yet retreat meant shame. Retreat meant admitting to the galaxy that Earth had become a force greater than all others. Pride and fear battled in the council's heart, but the choice would soon be taken from them. Because as the human armada revealed itself fully, as their engines roared and their weapons lit the dark, one message was clear to every corner of the galaxy. Humanity had risen. And nothing would ever be the same again. The alien fleet hovered in silence, their ships trembling as the human armada surrounded Earth like a wall of shadows. Every captain felt the same fear burning in their chest. They had expected weakness, but what stood before them was strength beyond measure. Still, pride is a dangerous thing. The council representatives, unwilling to admit defeat, pressed the commander to act. They are bluffing, one shouted. They show us ships, but we have not seen their weapons. Another growled with anger. Strike first. Show the galaxy that the council still holds power. The commander hesitated, but the pressure was too great. His orders were clear. A fleet does not retreat without proof of defeat. And so, with shaking hands, he gave the order to fire. Dozens of warships locked onto a single human vessel, one of the massive black ships that loomed at the edge of the armada. Missiles armed, plasma cannons charged, ion beams prepared. The galaxy held its breath as the alien fleet unleashed its full fury. The void of space lit up in fire and light. Thousands of missiles streaked forward, trails blazing behind them. Beams of energy tore through the dark like burning suns. The targeted human ship did not move. It did not dodge, it did not raise shields, it did not attempt to retreat. It simply remained where it was, silent and waiting. The alien crews thought it would be destroyed, but what happened instead froze their blood. As the storm of weapons reached the human ship, every missile stopped. They hung in space, frozen, their engines dead. Plasma beams that should have burned through steel scattered like mist. Ion bolts dissolved into sparks. Nothing touched the ship. It was as if reality itself refused to allow harm to come near it. Panic spread across the fleet. Engineers shouted that their weapons had not malfunctioned. The logs showed everything fired correctly, yet the results were impossible. The human ship glowed brighter, the strange blue lines on its hull pulsing like veins of fire. Then, without warning, it answered. A single light appeared at the ship's front. Not a missile, not a plasma bolt, just a faint white glow, small at first, almost harmless. The alien crews stared in confusion, unsure if it was even a weapon. Then the glow expanded, twisting into a sphere of light that hummed with energy no scanner could understand. In the next moment, it was released. There was no sound, no roar of engines, no dramatic flash. The sphere drifted forward, slow and silent, toward the alien fleet. The commanders laughed nervously, thinking it was nothing, but then the first ship touched the sphere. And it was gone. Not destroyed, not burning, not broken. Gone. Erased. A massive battlecruiser, one of the strongest ships in the fleet, vanished in silence. The sphere kept moving. Another ship touched it, and it too vanished. The fleet scattered, panic erupting as the sphere cut through them. Ships fired desperately, unleashing every weapon they had, but nothing touched it. Their missiles disintegrated before reaching it, their beams bent around it, their most powerful warheads simply blinked out of existence. In less than a minute, 5 ships were erased. Entire crews, entire legacies, gone without a trace. The alien fleet screamed in terror, comms filled with desperate cries, captains begging for retreat. The council representatives who had demanded the strike were pale with horror. This was no bluff. This was power beyond imagination. And the humans had used only one weapon. The sphere of light faded after its path was complete, dissolving into nothingness, leaving silence behind. The human ship remained where it was, unharmed, calm, as if nothing had happened. The galaxy watched in silence. Billions who had tuned in expecting a glorious victory now stared in disbelief. The council had struck first, and in return, they had been humiliated. But worse than humiliation was fear. Humanity had not unleashed its entire armada, had not sent waves of ships or endless weapons. They had responded with one strike, a single answer, and it had been enough to cripple the fleet. The alien commander's voice cracked as he gave the order to retreat. Engines roared as the survivors turned away from Earth, desperate to escape. But the human armada did not chase them. The massive ships simply shifted back into formation, their silent wall around Earth unbroken. No words were spoken, no threats sent, no pursuit made. Humanity had shown its strength, and that was enough. Back in the council chamber, silence ruled. The representatives who had demanded war now trembled in shame. None dared to speak first. The truth was clear to all. Humanity had power the galaxy could not match. Power that could erase fleets in seconds. Power that turned the greatest empires into frightened children. And yet the humans had not declared war. They had not demanded surrender. They had not even spoken a word. That silence was worse than any battle cry. Because silence meant confidence. Silence meant control. Silence meant they had no need to prove themselves further. Whispers spread across the galaxy. Some said the humans had mastered dark matter, bending space itself to their will. Others swore it was forbidden technology, relics of an ancient civilization long lost. None knew the truth, but all understood one thing. Earth was no longer just a planet. Earth was now a power that could shake the stars. And as the alien fleets limped away from Sol, every being watching knew the same terrifying thought. If this was only the first strike, then the galaxy had not yet seen the full wrath of humanity. The retreat from Earth was chaos. 20 ships fled through the dark, their engines burning at maximum speed, their comms filled with screams and broken signals. They did not leave in order, they did not leave with dignity, they left in fear. Some captains even abandoned formation, breaking ranks to save their own lives. By the time they reached safe space, the once proud council fleet was no longer an army. It was a scattering of survivors, broken in spirit and humiliated before the eyes of the galaxy. The transmissions of the battle spread faster than light. Every world with a receiver had seen what happened. Billions had watched the mighty council fire first, and billions had watched humanity answer with only one strike. 5 ships erased, 3 more crippled, and the humans had not even spoken a single word. The shock spread from system to system like wildfire. On trade stations, merchants whispered in fear. In border worlds, soldiers tightened their patrols, hoping they would not be the next to face Earth's hidden fleet. Even in the great capitals of ancient empires, silence filled the grand halls. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt uncertain of its future. Rumors began to spread. Some said Earth had built its weapons from dark matter, using energy that no other species could control. Others claimed the humans had uncovered technology left behind by a race older than the stars. A few whispered something even darker, that humanity itself was not natural, that they were created for war, and the fleets they revealed were only a fraction of their true force. Fear turned into wild stories, and the more the rumors grew, the stronger the legend of Earth became. Entire colonies began to panic, believing that humans would soon march across the stars, taking revenge for centuries of disrespect. Civilizations that had once mocked humanity now held emergency meetings, debating how to prepare for what might come. Inside the council chambers, the mood was heavy with dread. The representatives argued, their voices loud, but beneath the anger was terror. Some demanded a second attack, a larger one, to crush Earth before it became unstoppable. But others shook their heads, warning that another assault would only bring disaster. "We attacked with 30 ships, one delegate said, his voice trembling, "and they answered with one weapon. What do you think will happen if we send 300? No one replied, because the answer was clear. The Council did not have the strength to defeat humanity. Not anymore. But pride would not allow them to admit it openly. In their official broadcast, the Council tried to control the story. They claimed the attack on Earth had been a misunderstanding, that the fleet had only gone to investigate missing ships. They did not mention the destroyed cruisers, they did not mention the erased warships, and they did not admit to their retreat. But the galaxy had seen the truth. Every being with a transmitter had already watched the battle unfold, and the Council's lies only made them look weaker. The fear of humanity began to spread beyond governments and empires. Ordinary people started to speak of Earth with a mix of awe and terror. Some saw them as monsters who would one day enslave the galaxy. Others saw them as saviors, a hidden force that could finally bring balance against the Council's corruption. On planets ruled by cruel empires, whispers spread of humans coming to free them. On worlds that had suffered under warlords, people prayed for Earth's silent fleet to appear above their skies. The humans themselves remained silent. No message, no explanation, no declaration of war or peace. Their ships stayed hidden in the shadows of the Sol system, watching, waiting. The silence made the fear even worse. If they had spoken, if they had made demands, the galaxy could have prepared. But saying nothing left everyone in suspense. No one knew if humanity would strike again tomorrow, next year, or never. No one knew if the battle had been a warning or the beginning of something greater. And the uncertainty was more terrifying than open war. In hidden meetings across the stars, empires began to plot. Some wanted alliances, believing the only way to survive was to join humanity before it was too late. Others plotted secret weapons, hoping to match Earth's strength. A few even considered surrender without battle, ready to kneel before humanity's silent power. The galaxy was changing, and everyone felt it. One thing became clear. Humanity had waited for centuries, pretending to be weak, hiding their true force. And when they finally revealed their strength, the stars themselves trembled. Now, every ruler, every soldier, and every citizen lived with the same question in their hearts. Would humanity remain silent behind their walls of steel, or would they one day march across the galaxy and claim it all? The galaxy had fallen into silence after the failed assault on Earth. Fear spread like a shadow across star systems, but so did confusion. Humanity had revealed its hidden armada, had erased fleets with impossible weapons, yet they had said nothing. No declaration of war, no list of demands, no promise of peace. The silence was worse than any threat, because silence left every empire uncertain of what came next. Rulers held secret meetings, generals trained their armies harder than ever, and spies were sent to watch Earth. But the humans revealed nothing more. Their ships stayed close to their home system, their fleets waiting in silence. It was not weakness, it was patience, and patience frightened the galaxy more than firepower. Then, one day, the silence broke. It began with a signal. Every major empire, every council world, every colony received the same transmission at the same time. The message was not forced into their networks by hacking. It did not override defenses or destroy systems. It simply appeared, as if it had always been there, waiting to be played. When the message began, the galaxy listened. The image on the screens was not of weapons or fleets. It was a simple human face. A man, middle-aged, dressed in plain clothes. His expression was calm, his voice steady, and yet his words carried more weight than any fleet of warships. "We did not want this," the man said. "We did not seek battle. For centuries, we stayed silent while the galaxy watched us, judged us, and mocked us. We were called weak, primitive, unworthy of the stars. We did not argue. We did not fight. We waited." His eyes stared directly through the transmission, cold and unwavering. "When your ships entered our space, we remained silent still. Even when they vanished, even when you sent more, we did not answer. But then you fired upon our world. You tried to destroy our cities. And we were forced to respond." The words hung heavy in the air. Billions of beings leaned forward, holding their breath. The man continued. "We do not want conquest. We do not want to rule the stars. But understand this, if war is brought to our world, we will end it. Not with speeches, not with treaties, but with finality. You have seen only a glimpse of our strength. Do not force us to reveal the rest." For a moment, the galaxy was frozen. His tone was not angry, not loud, but certain. He did not threaten with rage or hatred. He simply stated the truth, and that truth was more terrifying than any roar. The transmission ended with one final line. "We ask for peace. But if peace is denied, then war will not be endless. It will be over. And it will be over quickly." The message faded, leaving only silence behind. Across the galaxy, reactions were immediate. On some worlds, leaders demanded preparation for war, terrified that Earth was about to launch a galactic conquest. On others, hope grew, believing that perhaps humanity truly wanted peace. Ordinary people argued in markets, in stations, in ships, some calling humans monsters, others calling them protectors. But everyone agreed on one thing: this was no bluff. The humans had spoken once, and that was enough. Inside the council, chaos reigned. Some representatives shouted that humanity must be destroyed before it was too late, but their words shook with fear rather than courage. Others insisted that the council should seek peace, that fighting Earth again would bring only extinction. The truth was clear, and every delegate knew it deep inside. The council had seen Earth's first strike. They had seen ships erased in silence, fleets broken without a chance to resist. If humans claimed they had not even revealed their full strength, then the galaxy could not imagine what greater weapons they possessed. And so the council hesitated. For the first time in history, the mighty governments of the galaxy stood frozen, afraid to move forward, afraid to retreat. Their pride demanded they act, but their fear demanded they obey. Meanwhile, humanity said nothing more. They did not repeat the message, they did not send fleets to other systems, they did not expand their borders. They simply waited. That waiting was a weapon of its own, because every passing day increased the galaxy's fear. Whispers grew darker. Some claimed humans had entire fleets hidden beyond the stars, waiting to strike. Others said Earth had discovered how to erase planets the same way they erased ships. No proof existed, but no one dared to doubt it. Even the strongest empires, those who had crushed dozens of civilizations, now looked at their fleets with uncertainty. They wondered if their ships were already useless against human power. On distant colonies, rebellions rose. People under the Council's rule began to whisper about Earth's message. They said they do not want conquest, rebels told each other, but they will end war. Maybe they will end our suffering too. Entire populations began to hope that one day, human fleets would appear above their skies, not as conquerors, but as liberators. The council tried to crush such whispers, but they spread faster than fire. Humanity had spoken only once, but their words had shaken the entire galaxy. And as the stars turned quietly in the endless dark, one truth became clear. The galaxy no longer looked at Earth as a weak world. They looked at it as a power that could decide the fate of empires. Humanity had spoken, and now the galaxy trembled in silence, waiting to see if those words would be the beginning of peace, or the promise of extinction. The galaxy had heard humanity's words, and the galaxy did not forget. Weeks passed, then months, but the silence of Earth remained. No fleets invaded other systems, no messages demanded tribute, no armies marched into foreign space. Humanity simply stayed within its borders, watching. Yet the fear did not fade. If anything, it grew stronger. Every empire now measured its fleets against the memory of that single strike, and every comparison ended the same. They could not match Earth. Their weapons looked like toys, their shields looked like paper. The council tried to gather strength, but their alliances began to fracture. Old rivals no longer trusted each other, old allies no longer believed in council leadership. Some worlds wanted to prepare for war, others wanted peace, but all of them whispered the same name, humanity. The fear spread into the streets. Merchants spoke of human warships cloaked in shadows. Children whispered of human fleets hiding behind every star. Soldiers, hardened by years of campaigns, now trembled at the thought of facing an enemy who did not need to fire twice. Even rulers who once mocked Earth in public now spoke carefully in private, as if afraid their words alone might invite human wrath. The galaxy was trapped in a new kind of war, not of weapons, but of silence. And silence was winning. Then came the disappearances. Merchant ships reported seeing strange shadows drifting in the void near their trade routes. Some convoys vanished entirely, leaving no wreckage, no distress calls, only silence. At first the council blamed pirates, but the stories grew darker. Survivors spoke of massive shapes gliding through space, ships without signals, fleets without names. They said the humans were moving beyond their system, spreading slowly, unseen. The council tried to hide the truth, but rumors could not be stopped. Everywhere, fear deepened. Yet, Earth said nothing. No message, no warning, no explanation. Their silence was a weapon sharper than any blade. Every empire began to prepare for the worst. They built more ships, but their shipyards felt too small. They trained more soldiers, but their armies felt too weak. No matter what they did, the shadow of humanity loomed larger. The galaxy felt like a prey animal waiting for a predator to strike. And still, the humans did not strike. Inside the council chambers, despair grew. Meetings stretched for days with no decisions. Should they launch a final attack and risk everything? Should they surrender before the war even began? Should they send envoys and beg for peace? Every option felt like death. The strongest voices shouted for war, but their voices shook with fear. The wisest voices begged for peace, but their pleas were drowned by pride. In the end, nothing was decided. The council, once proud and powerful, was now paralyzed. And then, one day, the stars fell silent. It began with transmissions failing across entire sectors. Signals cut off without warning. Ships lost contact with their fleets. Stations could no longer reach their capitals. Panic spread, because no one understood what was happening. Scanners showed no enemy fleets, no weapons, nothing at all. But entire regions of the galaxy went dark, as if swallowed by an unseen hand. Some believed it was human ships erasing communication. Others believed humanity had unleashed a weapon that silenced the stars themselves. The truth was unknown, but the fear was enough. The galaxy froze. The silence stretched on for hours, then days. In that time, no attacks came, no demands arrived. Only the weight of waiting. When communication finally returned, no explanation came with it. But the message was clear. Humanity could reach anywhere. They could silence entire sectors with ease. And if they chose, they could do far worse. The galaxy had no answer. On distant worlds, Ordinary people began to worship Earth as something more than mortal. To them, humans were not just another species, but a force of nature, unstoppable and inevitable. Others cursed them as monsters who would one day erase everything. But whether worshipped or feared, all agreed on one truth. Humanity had become untouchable. And so the galaxy fell quiet. Wars that had raged for centuries slowed to a crawl. Empires that once dreamed of conquest now hid behind their borders. The Council no longer spoke of Earth as weak. They no longer mocked humanity as primitive. Instead, they avoided even saying the name aloud, as if the very word carried danger. Humanity had spoken once, and then returned to silence. That silence held the galaxy hostage, because no one knew what the humans would do next. Would they stay in their system forever, hidden behind their wall of warships? Or would they one day decide to march outward, ending empires with the same ease they erased ships? No one knew. And that not knowing was the greatest fear of all. In the end, humanity did not need to conquer. They did not need to threaten. They did not need to strike again. By revealing their power and then saying nothing more, they had changed everything. The stars themselves felt quieter, as if waiting. And the galaxy, once proud and loud, now held its breath in silence. Because everyone knew one thing with certainty: if humanity ever chose to rise, no force in existence could stop them.